Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us for the 4 o'clock show this afternoon with news and politics. The big news this afternoon, the cancellation of Roseanne on ABC after racist tweets by the actress this morning. Now this show was on the rise, had a lot of political undertones to it, and now it's gone. Jennifer Lawless, down at American, soon to be at UVA. What's the reaction been to this today?
I think the biggest reaction has been the speed with which ABC and Disney responded to the tweet and canceled the show. So there was not a big discussion. There was not a big debate or deliberation. She had already tweeted an apology, and none of that mattered. Within a matter of minutes, the show was canceled. And I think that that really indicates that we've moved quite a bit as a country. We've seen a lot of people been punished and taken down for sexual harassment. This is a perfect example of how we no longer are willing to tolerate racism either. And given that the ratings were what they were and that the show had been quite critically acclaimed when it came back, there were real costs associated, and ABC and Disney decided to move ahead and do it anyway.
How much legs do you foresee this having? After the tweet, Roseanne issued the apology swiftly. ABC canceled the show swiftly. What do we see after this now?
Well, I think some of it is going to come down to whether the president or his allies decide to tweet or speak in defense of Roseanne. Some of it is also going to come down to whether she decides to enter the fray and try and justify any of her actions or suggest that this was an overcorrection. At this point, I think it has legs to the extent that opponents of the cancellation decide to give it legs.
And so let's talk a little bit. She did issue the apology today. I mean, is this it for Roseanne? Is there a third act? This was her de facto second act.
It's hard to imagine a third act. And part of the reason it's hard to imagine that third act is because this tweet was completely irrelevant. It was just a mean-spirited, racist comment targeted at Valerie Jarrett. It was not potentially interesting. There was nothing, even very timely about it. So I just think this was an example of career suicide at the second stage of the game.
And it's interesting. I mean, once the tweet's out, it's out. I believe she did delete it and did apologize. But I mean, one has to wonder, what was she thinking?
She wasn't thinking. And I think that, 20 years ago, if you weren't thinking, you wouldn't necessarily have a TV show canceled because of this kind of statement. But we have moved forward as a country. We are aware of racism and sexism and homophobia in a way that we were not 20 years ago. And I think she realized that today, but it was too late.
Well, we'll see what happens moving forward on the Roseanne front. Of course, it was very much in the political fray with President Trump supporting sort of the pro-Trump storylines from Roseanne. But today's tweet sees the show canceled. Let's move to politics. Let's talk about Trump. Let's talk about North Korea. On again, off again, on again. It looks like the summit now is moving forward. What is the talk inside the Beltway as to sort of the geopolitic of this, of it looking like it was good and then off and then back on again? A lot of machinations, a lot of moving pieces.
I think there's a general sense of worry because there's so much uncertainty regarding the summit. And it was the very day that he had canceled the summit and written the letter to Kim Jong-un saying that meeting would not be appropriate at this point in time, that he spoke to reporters later in the day and said that June 12th might still very well be the date and the summit's not necessarily canceled. The uncertainty regarding the way that he makes these decisions, the flip-flopping back and forth, I think worries Democrats and Republicans alike because they're not exactly sure what side they're supposed to be on or what their talking points are supposed to be. Generally speaking, I think it had gotten to the point where the establishment was behind the summit, but I think there was also a big sigh of relief when it looked like it was not going to happen. And so we're now back to it looking like it's going to happen again, but the 12th is far away. And for this administration in particular, a lot can happen in 2 weeks.
But it was interesting the way that the president had played it out, that letter, again, saying that it was off. He didn't go nuclear, if you will, as he's been known to do in the past with Kim Jong-un. I mean, does he get any credit for leaving the door open?
Well, I think he gets a little bit of credit for leaving the door open, although if you dissect that letter any more than, just giving it a cursory read, there are a whole bunch of other problems with it. So he wasn't incredibly confrontational or offensive in the letter, but it was written as though Trump was speaking it. And, you know, there were some veiled threats. There were some suggestions that it's a shame that this isn't taking place because if we, God forbid, ever have to use our nuclear weapons, that's going to be the end of it. And, you know, I'm not sure that the tone was that different than going nuclear. It was just done in a more appropriate way.
Not tweeted that I'm out, no meeting. now it's back on. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on policy-wise inside the Beltway while we have you. A lot of talk right now about, again, where we're at with Dreamers.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, something that's really interesting about where we are with Dreamers and with DACA in general has to do with the video footage and the photos that we've been seeing over the course of the last couple of weeks and the last few days in particular. And again, this is one of those things where if you think back to 2006, when we had the last really big discussion about comprehensive immigration reform, Twitter was barely a thing. Social media hadn't sort of taken hold the way that it has. We weren't getting these kinds of images. We weren't seeing, you know, these incredibly powerful photos of children being removed from their parents' care. And so I think that this is not particularly helpful for the president because it's not just that he wants to make sure that there is border security and there's money for a wall before he's willing to engage in comprehensive reform. He's now got to say that that's more important than watching these really dramatic images of children being separated from their families. And, you know, I think ultimately he loses the visual day.
Well, there was an interesting piece on Politico today with the picture that's been going around with 2 children on the floor that the president said that was under the Obama administration.
It was, and that's another example of a tweet being taken down very, very quickly. That was Jon Favreau, an Obama, speechwriter who had actually posted it initially. But no one cares, right? Obama was so yesterday. It doesn't matter anymore. What we've got now is a president who is talking about immigration reform and an attorney general who has said explicitly, look, if you want to stay with your kids, don't break the law, right? And so those images are going to be associated, I think, more with the president's policies and this Justice Department's view of what they have to do to enforce the law than, you know, sort of terrible circumstances that happen to ensue under Barack Obama's White House.
Well, a lot of talk about, as they said, this number of 1,500 children unaccounted for under the new administration's policy is going to continue to keep an eye on that down in D.C. But of course, keeping an eye on the aftermath of the Roseanne cancellation, what's going to take place with the North Korean summit potentially for June 12th, and of course, more policy inside the Beltway. Jennifer Lawless, appreciate as always you're taking the time to Skype in today.
See you next week.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Don't go anywhere from national politics. We're going to get local. We've got 2 city council candidates here in studio at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. I'd like to welcome in my next guest as we talk politics today. We've had him on before, Mike Arrojo, with Jobs with Justice, now a candidate for City Council here in Providence, Ward 13, the seat being vacated by Brian Principe. Thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So this is a decision that doesn't come lightly to folks, the decision to run for office. Talk with us about what led up to this for you that you said, I want to run for the seat and why.
Of course. Really it's because I just want to be a voice for working people at City Hall and from Ward 13. Also because my family has a history of public service and I've been working as an organizer and it goes back a pretty long way and I feel like this is how I can best serve my community.
So were you surprised when Principe said he was stepping down?
Yeah, a little. I feel like he had a really great, his last year was really wonderful. He got a lot done, especially with the Community Safety Act and went really far building bridges for people. So I was a little shocked by that, yeah.
So you talk about representing and organizing, again, the working community, if you will. What are the really big issues facing Ward 13?
Well, sure. So it's Ward 13 is not a wealthy ward. We have some of the highest rates of food stamps and assisted living in the city. And then we have this huge disparity in housing costs and rents. And so probably cost of living is the number one in my community. But really, I'm just kind of most excited about going out to talk to people to figure out what their core issues are and seeing out how we can come up with a solution together.
So the official kickoff is in fact tomorrow.
Yeah, 3:30.
But you had a soft launch, if you will, on social media.
Yeah, it was pretty soft.
Letting folks know that you're planning on running. What's the reaction been?
It's been pretty positive. So far, I guess a couple hundred supporters in a pretty short amount of time, which was really heartening. It's a new process for me, so I'm not exactly sure what the rules are for doing this. Like, this is a learning thing. So I'm hoping that the folks in the ward and the people who want to support learn with me on this process. So, yeah. So we're trying the actual announcement tomorrow at 3:30. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the nuts and bolts of where it's going to be and what you're going to tell folks. Basically, I'm sure what you're telling me here in studio now, and a little bit more.
There'll be more. So tomorrow at 3:30 in Armory Park, which is the park by the Armory, obviously, at the playground, which is sort of the heart of the neighborhood. We'll be announcing. There'll be community members. My family will be there. It's very exciting.
So let's talk a little bit, some issues facing the City Council right now. If you were in the seat, they're probably going to be passed, but if you will. We're kind of in the shadow of where the Fane Tower would be here in Providence. And as we know, the City Planning Commission voted to not endorse, again, the variance on the height, if you will, but it goes to the City Council to be able to make these decisions. And it was interesting. The 95 Commission was put into place to be independent, but this is something the city really has to have a say in. If you were in the council right now, what's your thought on what's happening with 195 and Fane in particular?
Well, Fane, I was disappointed to see them not approve the tower at the height they wanted it. We need construction in the city, and also we have a shortage of housing. So even if it's luxury housing, it relieves the burden in some of our neighborhoods when there's this new building that will take some higher dollars out of some of the communities. Might be a good, healthy choice. Also, folks who build things need to work. We need to see more towers in the air. We need to see more cranes. And so I was really a little disappointed about that. So if I was on the council now, I would definitely approve that.
Okay, interesting. On the council level, looking at that as well. What do you think are going to be the big issues if you were elected in 18, sort of moving forward? We know what's sort of in play now, but you talk about, the residents' needs in Ward 13. What do you see as the big issues facing the city?
Well, so rent is number one. Rent is very, very much number one. I've been working with community organizations for the past year to discuss rent control in the city. Now, not to limit landlords' ability to earn a living, but really to make sure that we're stabilizing a market that's kind of out of control right now. Our families need to know that they'll be safe and secure in their houses today. And so that'll probably be number one. But then there'll be issues about access to green space, transportation, making sure our roads are good. Our community schools are as good as they possibly can be, especially because we're so lucky to have Asa Messer in our neighborhood, which is such a beautiful school, that everything we can do to get the highest paid, best teachers that we can in our neighborhood is what I'll be looking for.
And so let's talk a little bit about rent control. We've had DARE in here several months back when they officially kicked off the campaign. Now, they wanted to get something on the ballot that would allow voters to actually have a say. What's your sense on how that campaign's been received?
So if you talk to a tenant, it's pretty supportive. There's a lot of misinformation about it. So one of the ideas is that rent control would prevent landlords from raising the rent, but really what it does is prevent them from raising the rent outside of what the market can bear inside that area.
Okay.
Just to allow predictability inside of that market, because right now it's wildly unpredictable. And families who have been established for a long time are being forced out of their houses. So really the reception has been good when it can be explained well. Tenants get it intuitively. Landlords sort of have a visceral reaction to it right now, and so hopefully we can get past that.
And one of the elements isn't there, to have a board, if you will, a sounding board for tenants' rights.
Yeah, absolutely. So a board that can help advise the community on what's best for the neighborhood. It's a democratic process. It's something that we're all kind of used to. It's something that's familiar to us. And I think it's the best way to ensure that we can move forward as a city.
And so you're going to kick off tomorrow. How big is fundraising going to be as part of this? Do you feel the need to need to raise money, or is it more of the community awareness that you're looking to just?
So it's both. I mean, you know, it's like I'm looking to make this campaign a movement-based campaign, so it'll be about mobilizing the base and getting people out and making sure that every voter that's able to vote votes. Hopefully they vote for me. But obviously money is part of it, and it's not bad to think of the money inside politics like that. We need to print posters, we need to make signs, we need to be able to feed people when they go out. Like, we want to be able to do that. I want to be able to do those things. It wouldn't feel right to not do that. So yeah, so hopefully we can raise money pretty quickly. We've gotten some pretty good donations already, which is amazing, and thank you to all the people who've done that. And always looking for more. So.
And are you assembling your kitchen cabinet too as we speak?
I believe I am. So all of those terms are kind of new to me, so I'm kind of figuring all that stuff out now.
Oh, who's going to be advising you? I'm sure talking with folks with Jobs with Justice, other stakeholders in the community.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously we have some support from former leaders from Jobs with Justice, some members from DARE, obviously my mom and sister and folks like that will be talking to me all the time, I'm sure. And also people I don't know yet. I mean, really, the voices we have are people I talk to all the time. Finding new people to help advise me on this is going to be the most exciting part.
Well, as you introduce yourself to the greater constituents and voters in general, you know, we've had you here. We know your work with Jobs with Justice. What would you like folks to know today about Mike Arrojo as you're kicking off tomorrow?
That's a good question. So, you know, I've been a resident of you know, I grew up here. Like, I was born in New York, but we came here when I was very young. I've lived in that neighborhood for the past 20 years. My family's there. My family goes back a long way, and that I just feel like this is the best way I can give back. I just want them to know that. You know, I'm for them.
Okay. He's getting in the arena, Mike Arrojo. We've had him on live before the official kickoff tomorrow at 3:30. We'll have more links to your campaign information as well, but wanted to just have you in as you've had the soft announcement. Appreciate your taking the time to come to Go Local today.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike. I'll let you go around the corner.
Great.
Okay, one city council candidate. We have another one in the wings for you. Stephen Cianci is here to talk about his campaign. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Go Local News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us for the 4 o'clock news and politics show. It's been all politics so far, talking with Jennifer Lawless in Washington, D.C., Mike Arrojo running for City Council Ward 13, and now Stephen Cianci running for Ward 5. Thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
I appreciate your taking the time to come on in. I know it's been a bit of a whirlwind since you've announced the campaign to run for the seat in Ward 5. Talk with us about your decision to throw your hat in the ring and run for City Council.
Well, the decision is made based on the people I live around. In our ward, we have a lot of different things going on that people are concerned about: the schools, the sidewalks, the crime and dog attacks and so on. As I talk to them, our voice is lost. So I feel that I want to be the people's voice, you know, and bring that back to what it should be in politics. Let the people decide what they want, not the politicians.
So do you think that by coming from sort of the outside, if you will, that you're an outsider, that you want to bring a fresh voice into politics, as you said, against the sort of current establishment?
I think the people are tired of politics. I think they want a fresh voice, new ideas, but they all want somebody to care about the ward, which I lived in my ward for 25 years. I've been married for 40. I have 2 kids that go to the schools. They're school teachers now. But if you don't care about your ward, the city's going to fall apart. You know,
Come a little closer over here. Don't scoot out on me.
Yeah.
So talk with us a little bit. What's the response been since you announced last week when folks said, you're tossing your hat in the ring?
I think it's a great response because I've been going door to door, and the people I'm speaking to, it's the same thing. Crime, the streets, the ATVs. It's all about what's going on in our ward and what's not happening. And every person I've spoken to is the same thing. We need new blood. And me, being my first time running, I feel I can bring some change, I hope, but I'll be the people's voice in that.
So what do you talk about when people bring up Buddy Cianci? You referenced it in your campaign release. What do folks ask you?
Listen, if I could be half of what he is, I'd be great. The thing is, Buddy's Buddy, I'm Steven. I believe in what I believe in. He believed in what he believed in. The city, when he ran it, the city was popping. As every administration that goes by, everybody has problems in every administration. But they talk positive about it. Every person I spoke to in my ward, not a negative thing about them. It's just they need to change, and we have to bring it.
So tell folks what the next few weeks are going to bring. Summertime now, hitting the streets. Is it a listening tour? Is it trying to do fundraising? What's on your agenda?
Well, it's knocking door to door to meet the people in our ward, because that's their voice that I'm running on. As I speak to them, the concerns of what's going on with our schools, the police, the teachers, and especially with the city, with the finance problem. The city is in a difficult time. We can't sell the water department. We can't. There's no way. We can't sell the zoo. But the problem is either the state has to step up and help us, or we have to do some changes somewhere to cut wasteful spending in our city somewhere.
So one of the questions I asked another candidate who was in here just shortly, one of the issues facing the council today as we speak, moving forward, the city council now has to vet the Fane Tower proposal on the 195 land for a variance for the height. Gone to the City Plan Commission, they did not recommend the variance, but now the city council has to have a say in the process. If you were on the council today, what would your view be of this tower that Jason Fane is looking to move forward?
First, I would talk to all the residents in my ward and ask what they want. That's their decision, not mine. So that's how I would go about it.
So is that what you think is moving forward really going to be your MO if you were elected? Listening to the residents.
Well, it's their voice that is going to control. I'm not going to make decisions without them. I feel that they need to make the decision. They're the one paying the taxes. They're the one paying my job. Everybody's job in that city is being paid by them, so they have the right to speak.
So you talk about the issues facing the city and what you hear from your constituents. Do folks, from what you hear, feel the city is moving in the right direction?
Some say yes, some say no. The problem is, we'll worry about this next year and see what happens. I think this year it's all politics and saying the city's right, the city's all right. I think next year is going to tell all.
You think there's going to be some potential changes, if you will?
For next year? All right. It's up to the people. That's what I say. I say if they decide what change they want and what direction they want to go, they'll vote. And that's what it's all about.
So you talk with folks about being concerned about the ATVs. We did just see the police department confiscate a number of them, destroy them, if you will. What do folks say? Do they just want them off the roads sooner?
Well, they're a road hazard, number one. And when they're on the road, the police can't chase them. That's policy.
Yep.
So underneath the ordinance, they can get them. Once they get them, they can confiscate them and squash them, but they can't chase them. So there's a lot of newsletters going out there saying that they have policy where they can chase. That's not police policy. They cannot, because they can get sued if something happens. These kids are reckless. I live right across the street from them, so it's nothing new. And I see them, and we call the police, and we try to stop them, but they're out of hand. And we got to find another way of stopping them somehow. With the police, the mayor got to back the police somehow, and let them do their job. And if they don't, we're going to have this going on forever and ever. And it won't stop because they know what rights they got. Being on the street, they know the cops can't chase them. And they ain't going to stop them.
What are you hearing on speed cameras? We've just seen on the House floor at the state level them trying to sort of tighten up what the cities around the state are allowed to do or not do. And we've seen changes here in Providence as it stood so far. But there's proposed changes for lesser first infractions. But what's the response been from how it's been rolled out so far?
So the people in my ward are probably one of the highest ticketers out there in our ward. They feel that it was rolled out the wrong way, number one. Number two is the money, we don't know where the money's going. So if it's going in the general fund, it's not going to school safety, it's not going to the schools, we want to know where it's going. And that's the whole issue out there with the people in the ward. They want to know if it's going to be spent on the schools, no problem. The ticket's a little high, so when they rolled it out, $95 is a lot of money. And if the money goes to a certain direction where it's going to help the kids in the school for safety, I was at Mount Pleasant High School the other day, and I was behind the school, potholes, they're in the parking lot, sewer caps open. The doors are wide open, so anybody can go in these schools and do what they want. If we don't spend it on safety, then the money shouldn't be going to the general fund. That's how I feel and how they feel.
And right now, as we've seen, there's some friction between the teachers and the city. You've got children who are teachers in the current administration as well. How do you think that you would handle this moving forward? Again, this friction between the teachers and the administration.
I'm for the teachers and the administration. My daughters are school teachers. I know what they go to every day. The kids are what's in our future here. If we don't teach them the right way, we don't support them in any way for safety or whatever we got to do to support them, I'm there for them. And I'm there for the teachers. I know what they go to every day.
Well, you've got your feet on the ground again, Ward 5, kicking off the campaign last week, as you said, going door to door, I'm assuming multiple times.
We've been going out there every day, and the campaign we kicked off, we had about 80 people there. For a first-time person running for office, I think that was a pretty good turnout, to be honest with you. The people I'm speaking to, they're 100% behind me. There's some older people that are in our ward. What I'm going to do in my ward is, part of my pay from council, I'm giving back to the ward, to the kids in my ward, so that they can get uniforms, whatever they need for the Little League football, whatever. There's another program I want to roll out for the elderly, which is we're going to reach out to all the elderly people in the ward to find out when there's a city emergency. We can reach out and make sure that they're safe, warm, they got water during like a snowstorm that's going to be 5 days, they're going to be buried. So I want to make sure that they're safe. There's a couple other things I'm going to roll out, but not now. But I think it would be a really good thing for the elderly in our ward, because I want them to retire and have a nice life in our ward that, they know that they don't have to sell their house. They can afford it.
Well, lots of things rolled out already. I'm sure we're going to see more to come
Hopefully.
from you, Stephen. I appreciate your taking the time to come in on the campaign trail to introduce yourselves to folks here on GoLocal. I'm sure we'll have you back in the future. Appreciate your taking the time to come in today.
Times. Thank you very much.
Stephen Cianci, thank you so much. I'll let you go around the corner.
Thank you.
Okay. Don't go anywhere. We just had some politics. Now we're going to get into some performance. We've got the Italian Chicks coming on in just a moment, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us for the 4 o'clock show. We've been talking politics since 4 inside the Beltway. City Council candidates here. But we're going to move to some performance here in Rhode Island. There's going to be a show, the Italian Chicks, on June 15th here in Rhode Island in East Greenwich. We have Marianne Boom Boom Maizano headlining the show with us here in studio today. Marianne, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Kate, thanks for having me.
Well, appreciate your taking the time to Skype in and give us a little bit of a preview about this show. Obviously, a lot of folks of Italian heritage, or even not, might be interested to come check it out. It's a comedy, it's a drama, it'll make you laugh, make you cry. Tell us about the show.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a comedy and variety show, which you really don't see anymore. Usually you go to a comedy club, you won't see the Italian chicks in a comedy club because we add music, we do song parodies. Basically, the Italian chicks will make you remember things you paid your shrink to forget, okay? And also, it brings you back to a time and place when life was kind of simple. And you remembered all these like when you were younger, those things were kind of annoying to you. But then when you got older, you realized the value in Sunday dinners and how important they were to the family. And they were the fabric that kept everything together. So being at an Italian chick show really will take you back to a time and place when life was quite simple and make you remember your nonna, your nonno, all the great foods, crazy stories about our aunts and uncles that came from the other side, which is Europe, Italy. So we really take you on this visceral kind of roller coaster of a journey about, growing up first-generation Italian-American.
So what do you hear from folks after the show, after the performances? You talk about remembering all the things about growing up Italian. Is the reaction, boy, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Kay, you're right. At the end of the show, first of all, at the end of our shows, I hope you would come. It's June 15th at the Odeum Theater. Please let me know. I'd be happy to give you some VIP comps and your team there. Because I know you got some Italian going on in there with you. I know that.
Little
okay?
Italian, yeah.
I felt it. It was a vibe. Okay.
It's at the hands.
Basically, our Italian chick shows after the show, it's like a wedding. We stand there on a line. Like after the wedding, they all wait online with the abusta, and they come up and they thank you and they give you a kiss and they're like, oh, yeah. Well, this is what people do with us. And one night we were standing there and we see this woman, because everybody's coming over going like, oh, this was the best. And I remembered the meatballs on Sunday and I remembered and we see this woman crying and I'm thinking, uh-oh, this maybe is not good, However, it was the most touching compliment ever. She walked over and she said, I have to tell you, she said, my mom and dad passed in the same year. It must have been about 4 years back, right? She said the same year, months apart. And she said, and she was crying, and she said, I heard words here tonight that I haven't heard since my mom and dad were alive, and I want to thank you for taking me back home.
Oh, touching. As you said, the people who can relate to what they see with the show. And speaking of the show, I want you to tell us a little bit, how did we get the Italian chicks to come to Rhode Island? I know that it's being produced by Carolyn Costa.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting, this crazy little thing called social media, right? Which people love and hate at the same time, right? Because it does have some great value for us, even politically, with people trapped in countries. They go right on Facebook and we find out things. Caroline Costa found me on Facebook and started following the show because I do put up some unique information on Facebook, whether it's live videos, whether it's because I'm also a singer, songwriter, and musician. So I'm what you call an entertainer, okay? So it's everything in one. And she found us on there, and we started talking about the show and the value of Rhode Island, because Rhode Island is such a huge melting pot of an Italian-American culture. It really is. And it's a smaller state. It's not like a Boston or... So everything is very close-knit, and people are really involved and in it. So we started talking about this prospect of doing the show together, and I give her a lot of credit. She's really, into it, and she's got her producer's hat on, and she's doing a great job.
So I have to ask you, where did the boom boom come from?
Oh my God, you have to come to the show to hear that.
You gotta
Actually, I think it's part of my Italian mob maid name. You know what I mean? Like they have Louis Thumbs, Mary and Boom Boom. Okay. But it's a great. This is how the Italian chicks kind of started. I myself, I knew when I was 5 years old that I wanted to be a performer, And that was a blessing and a burden at the same time. It really was. Because every Sunday, all my family would come over. The cousins, the aunts, everybody from the other side. And my mother would cook. And then when she'd be in the kitchen making dessert, she'd say, Marianne, go inside and sing for everybody. And I would jump on the chair and sing. And as soon as I heard this, I was like, that's what I want, you know? And then as I got older and I won a guitar and I started, teaching myself how to play, and I was in all these bands, and my father saw me getting in a van with like 5 guys going on the road, and he was like, hey, makikatsaka, okay? And he said to me one day, Mariana, you better get the real job and at the benefits. And I felt challenged by that, because when there's so many years that separate you, I took that as a challenge. Like, he didn't think I could do anything good. And he was saying, I don't know your world, and I just want to make sure you're okay. So I wound up walking into a local bank, and I got a job as a teller. And I wound up staying in banking and became quite successful by accident. And I was vice president of sales for many financial institutions. Until one day, while giving one of my sales seminars, I said to the team, so how many of you knew you wanted to be a banker when you grew up? And then it was like, nobody, surprise! And I know it, And that's when it hit me. I said, I'm not living my passions. I'm not following my passion. And I walked right into the CEO's office, and I walked away from my 6-figure job. And one of the things I wanted, well, first, I hadn't written a song in 10 years, so I wound up writing a CD of music, of which Danny Aiello approached me. Danny Aiello, Mr. Moonstruck, Do the Right Thing, that Danny. And I fell in love with one of my songs, wound up recording it. It was nominated for a Grammy. And then Danny fell in love with the show. I put this show together, and I started casting for specific people. And it turns out majority of the women that I've chosen, well, one woman we started in comedy together, but the rest, it's like having an extra family of women that are just so talented and so reinventing in so many ways. I mean, I know that I feel I reinvented myself, and I think I continue to do so on a daily basis, because who wants to sit still, right?
That is true. We certainly don't sit still here, but heard about this great show again, June 15th at the East Greenwich Odeum. Anything else you want folks to know about the show while we have you on our show here?
Well, it's a 2-hour comedy and variety show. It's a casino-style show. I think they should be prepared to laugh a lot and to really get on that visceral roller coaster, to take a nice little ride home and visit people that they haven't seen in a long time.
Well, again, as you said, you have to go to the show to find out where the boom boom came from. I don't think it came from the banking world.
No, I'm thinking you're right there, Kate. You know what I'm saying? little bit, I'm thinking you're right, okay?
Well, Marianne Boom Boom Maisano with the Italian Chicks coming to Rhode Island on June 15th. I appreciate your taking the time to Skype in, let us know a little bit more about the show. And if you're watching now, we'll provide links to it as well. Marianne, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Kate. Appreciate it. Have a great one.
Thank you. Take care. Marianne Boom Boom Maisano coming to the Italian Chicks here on June 15th. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here with our next guest in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. I'd like to welcome our next guest. He's been here before. DeMont Combs, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Otherwise known as Orange Live on social media.
Mr. Orange Live.
Got the requisite orange hat on. Last time we had you in, you were doing a book signing here in Providence. You're a published poet. This summer, some focus is going to be on poetry workshops, expanding people's appetite and aptitude for poetry. So talk with us a little bit about what this entails.
Okay, so I'm doing a workshop on June 16th at Stillwater Books. It's been a passion of mine to try to always give back to the community, and this event is free. I'm going to have a special photographer come out and take photos. I'm going to be teaching poetry. I feel like poetry is so important to the community. I've hosted a small workshop prior at my dad's group. I'm inside of a dad's group, and they loved it. So I said, let me just go there. It'll also be a book signing, so if you guys want to grab my books, they'll be at the bookstore. And I'll be teaching poetry. You can apply the poetry to any possible way of life. You can write it for yourself, you can put it in a book, you can impress someone with it, whatever you want to do with the poem. But just come and enjoy yourself, really.
Because, I mean, think about it. If you're not currently in school, if you're out of school and you're a lifelong learner, who do you think might be interested in coming to a workshop? Someone who just might want to tap their creative side.
Exactly. You know, it's the summertime. People are full with creativity. You want to just come out and enjoy yourself. Bring a date. Don't bring a date. Surprise date. I mean, it's whatever. It's really whatever you fancy. I know a lot of people in the poetry community. They always come out and they support me, so I always appreciate and thank them.
So what's this going to look like when we provide the link to let folks know about the workshop date, June 16th?
Yes, June 16th at Stillwater Books.
So we just had a guest, June 15th in East Greenwich with the Italian Chicks, June 16th with the poetry workshop at Stillwater Books, which we have had here on GoLocal. So if someone walks in, what can they expect?
They can expect a big sign of me. There will be, I pretty much just break down how to write a poem, how to make it meaningful in your life, and how to apply it beyond just it being words on a page.
And so how does that process start? Do you just tell folks to seek inspiration? Do you give folks maybe some directions to take?
Yes, I have a whole system in place I've created. Pretty much what ended up happening was I did a poetry slam, and I realized that there's different levels to poetry, and I realized that there's, you know, written, there's performance, and then there's people that freestyle poetry. After being in the community for a couple of years, there's about 55 different types of poetry.
Wow.
Written-wise. There's so many different types of what is called free verse, which is the type you hear normally during poetry slams. I call that performance because you're performing it. Actors are like normally the best, so shout out to all the actors out there. And then you have what is called freestyle. I remember the first time I got introduced to what is called freestyle poetry, Eunice, he used to perform it at Blue State. And he would just go in there and give me 5 words. You'll see poets sometimes say, give me 5 words and I'll use it, and I'll literally create a poem on the spot.
Wow, okay.
So,
have you done that yourself?
Yes.
Don't give me 5 words.
No. And so the written, I like to just say, like, a lot of people ask, is poetry rap? I think it's one form. See, when you rap, it's rhyme and punchline. So they're normally saying something to get a reaction. Comedies are the best ones to do punchline. And then you have what raps with an S is story. Then you have list. So there's many different forms that are simplistic in nature. And then when you combine them, it becomes very complex.
Excellent. June 16th at Stillwater Books. But you've been nominated for an award.
Yes, I have. I've been nominated by the Indie Author Legacy Award for Poet of the Year.
Now, is this something that they choose, or is this something the public can get involved with as well?
No, they can't get involved. The award is based off of what I've done in the community, what I've done for the community, my book reviews. It's just a accumulation of different things. Unfortunately, you guys can't get involved. I would love for you to get involved. You can email them and just say, hey, make him, you know, Poet of the Year. But I'll be in Baltimore, Maryland on June 23rd. I'm a finalist, so hopefully I get it.
Congratulations.
Thank you
making it
so
to this.
much.
I saw it on social media. Again, I feel like maybe a little role. We had you here in GoLocal talking about the books. You're doing the workshops. Do you anticipate publishing anything more in the upcoming future?
Yes, I do have a third poetry book I am currently working on. I am working on a play with a couple of potential people in the community. It's a long and tedious process when you want to keep giving back to the community. I don't like to just, give something, just to publish it. I like to have meaning, and I like it to have a purpose. I'm very big on purpose and having meaning and giving back, so I like to just take my time with things. So I'm thinking maybe 2019. I'm not trying to rush it.
We're not rushing you, that's for sure, but we are letting folks about an opportunity if you want to kind of brush off your poetry skills with an award-nominated poet here going to be down in Baltimore. You're traveling a lot this month, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'll be back on the 24th literally from Baltimore. I'm coming back the very next day because I got asked to perform at what is called a night of the arts. Different poets and singers and actors go to this church. I think it's called the Life Changing Church in Cranston, Rhode Island, and I'll be performing and vending there. So you can get my books if you have not gotten my books there.
Lots of opportunities to catch DeMont. And talk with us a little bit about your decision to really just go with the Orange Live persona and social media.
I've decided to go with the Orange Live persona because it exemplifies who I am and where I want to go. I want to bring orange, to everyone, and that is my purpose. I realize that. So I changed my name on social media to Mr. Orange Live. If you go to my Instagram, it's at Mr. Orange Live. But in order to find my books, you would have to use my name, DeMont Combs.
We'll make sure we have it all up if you're watching this after the fact, and all the links for what's coming up for DeMont, the award, the workshop, the performance at the end of the month, and as he said, keeping an eye on 2019 for some more publication and a playwright opportunity. Can you give us a little glimpse into what the play might be, or is it totally under wraps?
No, it's not totally under wraps. Basically, I would love to release it if I did have it during Black History Month. It really attacks racism and how to deal with racism, not necessarily in current society, but based off of a current society. Racism has been going on for a very, very long time, and it basically compares the past to the present. So you guys got to look forward to it. It is coming out soon. I've been writing it. I've had actors in this community look at it and give me feedback. I really do appreciate you guys. I appreciate my family who's literally stood by my side while I'm traveling and doing all this poetry, and it's just amazing the community support that I actually have.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come in here, sharing your poetry with folks both here in the state, around the country, around the world, and it sounds like there's probably no better time than now to have this play coming forward. We'll look forward to talking with you when that's coming out as well, but again, the workshop coming up on the 16th. Again, if you want to tap those creative vibes, Stillwater Books will provide links to that as well. So, DeMont Combs, Mr. Orange Live, thank you for coming here into the studio. I'll let you go around the corner.
Okay.
And I'll wrap up here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. It's been a busy day talking about politics and performance, kicking off with Jennifer Lawless down at American University. A couple of city council candidates. Mike Orojo is actually officially kicking off for Ward 13 tomorrow, giving us a glimpse into why he's running for the seat being vacated by Brian Principe. Stephen Cianci running for Ward 5, the current seat held by Joanne Ryan, moved into the performance space. Marianne Boom Boom Maizano Skyping in about the show, The Italian Chicks, at the East Greenwich Odeum on June 15th. DeMont Combs having a poetry workshop at Stillwater Books on June 16th. So lots to look forward to next month here in Rhode Island, and lots to look forward to here tomorrow in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. 3 o'clock means The Taste with Rick Simone. He's got a few new spots that you might want to check out and hear from him on at 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock, we'll have more politics, news, and lifestyle for you, so we look forward to seeing you back here in downtown Providence. Hope everyone has a good Tuesday evening. Appreciate you watching. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel.